Well, YouTubers, welcome back to the Holtzmischel channel and another, or the continuation, I should say, of building the blowers. Today we're going to be getting into some of the more technical detail of the reassembly and the prep work in order to rebuild this dust collector. So the first step we're going to do is I'm still going to go back to portions of the disassembly because there are some things there that kind of fit into this. So anyway, I was having problems with the keyways on the shaft. Like I said before, these blowers are exposed to an inordinate amount of moisture, and it's what's in the air. It's the condensation, or not the condensation, but the relative humidity that's in the air. And so the impeller, the whole thing gets exposed to a lot of moisture that other machines just don't. And so corrosion is a problem, and with the keyways in particular and the taper lock hub. And so what I wound up doing is, well, I'll show you right here. Now, as you can see, just drilled a hole into the key, cut a thread into it, run a screw into it, lifted it out, works like a charm. So I hope that helps you guys if you ever run into that problem later on down the line. Here's the mark right here. Turn it up to 90. Let it go. And it goes back to almost where it was. Turn it the other way. To 90 degrees over on the left. And it returns to its original point, which means this one, or this one have a little bit too much weight. It's not much. Been taken off just a smidge here and there with the grinder. It's this one, it has a little bit too much weight on it still. So we'll grind off a little more. And it doesn't move. So let's bring it around the other way. It rolls back just ever so slightly. And then stops right here. Bring it back up. Now the tail end of the shaft has the pulley on it, and it's a little bit imbalanced. It's a little too heavy on this side here, and so we've got all the weight on the front of the axle, which makes it real sensitive. So I would almost say that this is just about good enough. Let me roll this thing back on the it's still a little heavy on this fin right here. So we'll keep working it until we get it worked out and come back later. Here's our heavy fin right here. And it stays. We'll put it up at 10 o'clock. And it stays. Put it down at 3 o'clock over here. And it stays. Put it up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, and it stays. So I'd say our wheel is balanced. So of course, now that we assembled the the volute to the base, now we're going to install the impeller in the whole thing and then put new bearings on it. And so this process is it's not as straightforward as it might seem. There's some things that you got to watch out for now. There's a lot of ways you can go about this, but this is the way that I found easiest. And so what I wound up doing is you take the front bottom of the bearing housing loose completely so that you can slide it along the base of the machine, and then you tilt the shaft up, put your bearing and all that jazz on there, and then you start going to town on it. Now there's a few things you got to watch for. The position of your impeller in the housing itself, and then so that gets kind of tricky. So you don't want to tighten everything up too much right off the get-go, like I did right here. But what you want to do is, kind of tighten it up to where this is where it's going to be, and then that way later on you got to align the belt pulleys, and so you're going to be moving that whole shaft to and fro. And the other thing that you got to really watch out for is on the impeller side of the shaft. Now there's spacer rings in the bearing housing, and they are there to make sure that the shaft doesn't wander back and forth, because these shafts do, there's a lot of different axes of force working on them. One's a torsion force, an axial, and then also when they get warmed through those forces, they expand. And so the rear bearing on the pulley side, on the belt pulley side, actually slides back and forth. It's, a couple of hundredths maybe of a millimeter. It's not much, but it's just enough to where it would put enough of an undue strain on the shaft to where something's going to have to give later on. And so those front spacer rings are critical to maintain that exact spacing of the impeller, because some of them have funnels going into them, some open face ones, and so you can't have a whole lot of variation. Now closed face one is even more critical, because you have kind of a telescoping action going where the mouth of the impeller and the tube coming in, the infeed side, don't have a whole lot of lateral play, so you got to make sure that you don't change the position of that thing, and that's why it's so critical to lock those bearings in place and maintain that proper setting. Now the other thing is too, you got these little spiders with the tabs on them. You got to make sure you get those lined up. Now you can use screwdrivers to loosen and tighten these things. I don't recommend it, because you wind up beating the dog snot out of them. And so when you try to use one of these hook wrenches, like one like I'm using right here, then the other thing is to fold the tab down in the slot so that that thing doesn't, work itself loose eventually. So anyway, here's a first test run of the finished product. Now, as you can see, it runs a whole lot quieter, a whole lot smoother. I don't know if the microphone is picking this up, but the racket coming in is such that you can definitely tell there's material going up the pipe. Whereas before, the blower was so loud that all you heard was blower. You couldn't hear the rattling of the material going up the tube. Now, at this juncture, I'm also going to say the last rebuild of this machine, every mistake that could have been made, except for the spacer rings, it's the only thing they did right on the rebuild of it last time. As you can see from as you saw in the first part of the video, the holes that were worn through, they just kind of willy-nilly patched them. They just kept patching over them, patching over them. It had been patched about 3 times, maybe 4, and so the last patch was pretty atrocious. There was enough of a dip there in the bottom of the volute that there was materials jammed up in there, and it just wasn't going out. The performance of the blower was such that it was plugging up, and it sucked. Not in a literal sense. I mean, it sucks now. I mean, it really sucks. But the thing just wasn't working right in the way it was intended to. So, anyway, as you can see from the footage, the thing runs a whole lot better and it sounds a whole lot better. You can go out there and you actually hear yourself think now, whereas before it was just absolutely atrocious. So anyway, that's a wrap for this episode of Rebuilding the Blowers. I hope you guys were able to glean a little bit of useful information for your own projects. You can, as you can see, the metal work isn't all that too terribly difficult. You can build your own blower. You can make your own if you have the inclination to do so. It's not really all that big of a deal. I'll probably end up, when I get to Alaska, when I get to, setting up my own shop, probably even make my own. I have a small one, but I don't know if it's going to be sufficient for the planer and a few other little devices. But anyway, as you can see, it's not that too terribly difficult. Or if you pick up an old scrap one from a scrapyard somewhere and want to overhaul it, there you go. There's your roadmap for doing just that. Now, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, critiques, or ideas, by all means, put them in the comment section below. I realize there's a lot of redundant footage that I just left out in this video, so it may, for some of you who haven't seen some of the earlier videos on the subject, might leave a lot of questions open. So if not, go back through the archive and check out some of the other videos on blowers. Again, there's just a whole plethora of information out there. Don't know what else to say on it, but anyway, if there's something that's on your mind, by all means, ask away. We'll do due diligence and get your questions answered for you. So thanks for stopping by, and hope to see you guys all again very, very soon. There is some more shop videos coming up. Like I said in the last one, you know, with the vise, we've still got the ideal tool holders on the bench. They need to be finished up pretty soon. There's some other, you know, there's lots more to come. So don't fret if it gets to be a little while. Again, don't fret. We're working on it. So anyway, we'll see you guys all again soon.